products, business, or your personal life, how you're using encryption. Meanwhile, my name is Joy Uchechi Eziashi, and I'm the director of TrustedTech Africa. TrustedTech Africa supports startups and tech organizations to integrate trust and safety into their products and their business operation from day one, because we believe that safety is important. Safety is essential for any startup to be able to, not just for their users, but for their reputation too. So please find the chat function, share the aspect of your product or business or personal life that you are currently using encryption. So I'm not seeing chats rolling in. I want to see people rolling in with chats on where they are using encryption. It could be on you've activated encryption on a platform you're using, or you encrypt documents you send to people, something like that. So share your experience and how you're using encryption on the chat. Thank you, Emmanuel. I can see you said you use encryption. Where do you use encryption? We want to hear where you're using encryption. Not to waste any more time, I would hand over to Ephraim to continue. Meanwhile, this section is recorded, so we would have the recording sent to participants that registered and were not able to join, but we're expecting more people to join today. But I'm handing over to Ephraim, who is the project manager for the Encrypted by Design event, to continue this section with us.
Okay, sure. Thank you so much, Joy. So let me quickly share my screen so that we get into it. Just a moment. Okay. Okay, so just a moment, please.
you want me to share at my end? Ephraim, would you like me to share my own screen at my end?
Yeah, let me share. Okay. Yeah, so we understand that encryption has become part of product development, or when it comes to app development. And we know that tech startups, when they're coming up, they are looking at solving problems essentially with the product they have, whether it's health, education, whether it's civic engagement. They are trying to solve problems in that regard. But we need to understand that sometimes the solution that we rely on also looks at the bit around trust. And if you are talking about trust, we are looking at privacy. So essentially, this mini toolkit was created for founders like us, or people building platforms that most often handle sensitive data, because whenever you are dealing with users, surely you collect data here and there. So we have come up with a mini toolkit that is, so this is more of like a simple mini toolkit. It has an actionable guide. It helps to protect users through end-to-end encryption, and how to also implement end-to-end encryption. So this bit has a table of content where it helps you to understand encryption basics. So what is end-to-end encryption? How does the end-to-end encryption actually work? And also some of the common myths about the encryption. Also, it has another section that's looking at use cases. So these are some of the startups that have implemented the end-to-end encryption, and looking at a startup like PressPay in Nigeria, Camel, Hygiene AI in Ghana, Tile, SecureX, and all that. They all have implemented encryption one way or the other into their system. Also, there's another section that deals with the tools and the resources, where it gives you the tutorials and a quick start. So there's a table that I would get into it. There's a table that gives you all those elements. There, it also has the UX and ethics, what UX design ethics means when it comes to the product, and why ethical UX also design matters. Also looking at the key principles when it comes to ethical UX design, and some of the ethical dilemmas, and a startup design. Also, it has also policy awareness. So this is where it gives an overview of some of the African data protection laws, also foundational principles here and there, and also the role of encryption in data protection across key African countries as well. And the last one deals with the community and support. So as I said, this bit talks about the section 1, talks about the encryption basis, what end-to-end encryption means, and also when a platform uses end-to-end encryption, what is it actually doing? So it also gives you understanding of that, and also how the end-to-end encryption actually work in, let's say, the African context. It also has links, so there are links attached to the document that also gives that helps you to click on it, and you're able to get some understanding. So this bit talking about, okay, how end-to-end encryption works. So if you don't really understand end-to-end encryption, it gives you that understanding. Also, there are some common myths about encryption, and you've been able to identify 4 common myths when it comes to end-to-end encryption, for you to understand that, yes, we hear that encryption is for only criminals, encryption is for only complicated startups or big startups and all that. Well, you know that is not true. Encryption starts from the ongo. Yesterday we heard from one of the speakers saying that we shouldn't consider end-to-end encryption or encryption as an afterthought. It should be on the onset when we start with the development of the app. Also, this particular session goes deeper into some of the use cases. So this gives some understanding of how or some of the startups have been able to implement end-to-end encryption in their systems. So it's not something far-fetched, it's not something that is abstract, but it's something that people startups, early age stage startups are actually implementing into their systems. It continues. So we have about 5 use cases where we have all these startups have end-to-end encryption in their system. So you're able to, if you go through the mini toolkit, you're able to understand how these startups have been able to implement and even some of the encryption methodologies that they've even used in their systems. So this particular section, session 3, talks about the tools and resources. So after I've gone through the mini toolkits, I'll walk you through how the checklist works, because before you start or before you really understand whether you or the stage you are in or your status when it comes to end-to-end encryption readiness, you need to go through the checklist. So there are a number of questions that you're supposed to answer, you're able to answer. It automatically gives you some kind of readiness or some kind of status as to how you are ready, or how you are ready for or how, I mean, if you are looking at end-to-end encryption, how ready are you? So there's a download link here. If you click on it, it downloads an Excel sheet, and that is a checklist. So I'll walk you through the checklist and see how the checklist. So before you're able to even go starting to pick the right tools and all that, you need to go through, or you need to actually know your readiness or assess your readiness when it comes to end encryption. And that helps you to know, okay, how you're able to move along. So yeah, that's that. So these are some of the tools available. We have Signal Protocol, we have Ipsodium, we have Argay, we have OpenSSL plus HTTPS, we have OpenPGP.js and Crypto Meta. And all these have some quick videos that helps you to understand how most of these things work. And also some also have, or I mean, all of them have an easy guide. And also this gives you an understanding. So sometimes as a founder, you are wondering, okay, what should I even tell my developer? I mean, because let's say my developer is not here or is not on the call to really understand. So what can I tell? So you reading the toolkit gives you understanding, okay, this way you can also implement it. So if it's about private messaging, if it's about sensitive updates, if it's about encrypting your backups, you know the tool you're supposed to use. If it's about cloud security or encrypting your sensitive files when uploading them, you know the tool you're supposed to use. So this bit also goes into the UX and ethics bit, ethical dynamics, and this bit also deals with the policy awareness and all that. Yeah, so basically that's a 14-page mini toolkit. It will be available on our website for download. So after the session, we would provide the link to our website so that you can go and download it. But before I drop, let me take you through the mini toolkit, the checklist, for you to understand how it works. Let me stop sharing. Yes, yes, so there's that. So yes. Okay, great. So yeah, this is the checklist, as I said, and if you want to, probably you've gone through the mini toolkit, you are reading certain portions here and there, and now you want to move to the part that you now want to implement certain encryption tools in your system. First of all, the mini toolkit is user-friendly, so it gives you a step-by-step process to go through. And one of the steps when you look at section 3 is to first go through the checklist, see your end-to-end encryption status before you're able to proceed. So this is the checklist. So it has two tabs. It has the E2E checklist that has a number of questions for you to provide answers to, and that helps you to determine the status. And we also have the summary here. So after filling the checklist, yeah, it automatically fills this part and you're able to see your status. So I'll quickly go through some so that you're able to see how it is. So if you click on each status, it gives a drop-down menu or a drop-down list. So for instance, do we collect sensitive personal data? Yes. Do we apply end-to-end encryption? Do we apply encryption to sensitive features that handle privacy? Yes. Do we clearly tell users what data we collect about them? Probably, let's say no. Have we listed possible threats? No. Have we written down our threat model to guide our designers or guide design? No. How will users recover if they lose phone or passwords? Do we have code social recovery backups? Yeah, probably, let's say yes. Have we decided recovery method before launch? Yes. Do we minimize logs to only what's essential? So probably, let's say no. Do we avoid storing message content or identifiers unnecessarily? Let's say no. Are we using trusted or audited libraries? So maybe we are using one of the tools, one of the libraries. Let's say yes. Do we have a plan for independent security audits? Probably we are early stage startup, so no. Do we have a privacy policy in place? Probably no, because we are now starting to develop that. Or probably it's, let's say, to do. Do we understand the local privacy laws and rules where we operate? And do we know what to do if a government or third party acts? Probably we don't know. No. Have you consulted legal counsel? Because we are early stage, no. Do we have playbooks for lost devices, lawful requests or breaches? No. If our app sends or stores data outside the country, do we know the rules for using encryption across borders and are we following them? Let's say no. Okay, I didn't check this one. So we said no for this. Are we optimizing for low bandwidth and offline use? Let's say no. Do we support shared devices with optional pins and timeouts? Let's say yes. Do we minimize data costs? Let's say something to do. So yes, we've been able to go through, let's say, the checklist, the questions, and been able to assess our status, and everything. Also, one thing I left out is it has a recommendation here. So if it's a no, this is what you're supposed to do. If it's a yes, this is what you're supposed to do. So probably if it's a yes, I mean, then you are good. But if it's a no, then there are certain recommendations that you must follow. So there are recommendations attached to each and every status. Each and every question that you answer. So let's quickly look at our status. Yes. So this automatically fills it. So realize that the yes responses are 6, the no responses are 12, and the to-dos were 20. So that's a total item. So total items, the number of questions. The number of questions is 20. So this bit, the overall E2E readiness tells you, okay, means that we are 15% E2 end-to-end encryption ready. Means our platform is 15%. And this bit gives some indication. So if your status is below 0.75, that's 75%. Sorry, when your status is greater than or equal to 75% or 0.75, then it means that, I mean, you are ready. That's a green. But if your status is greater than or equal to 40%, that's 0.4, that means you are partial. But if it's less than the 40% or 0.4, it means you are not ready. So we now understand that this indicates that 15% means that we are is a 0.15. It means that we are not ready. So if you are not ready, it means that you have to go through some of the tools that are available in the toolkits to be able to understand what are some of the tools, some of the tools that we can start implementing, or where can we seek guidance from to be able to implement end-to-end encryption. So this bit is around, this bit gives an idea or helps you to do some, a little bit of an assessment with regards to your end-to-end encryption posture, and also helps you to know what the next steps could be, or what are some of the recommendations with regards to your your end-to-end encryption readiness. Yes, so I would end with saying that start with one checklist item today if you have not done that, because every yes you mark brings you one step closer to your platform users and your investors that can trust you. So if you have not implemented most of these things, most of the things and the questions and all that, I mean, it means that it's a question mark. So if you're able to go through this checklist and you have a better percentage, it means that you're doing something right when it comes to your end-to-end encryption and how you're able to protect your users, because essentially you're looking at protecting your users and making sure that their data is safe, or I mean, there's some kind of encryption. So whenever the data is moving across boundaries or going through other mediums, you know that it's not in plain text. People cannot just intercept it and get the plain text. But when it's going through it, you know it's an encrypted and it's crumpled. So entirely, this is what the mini toolkit has in it, and this is where I'll end it. Thank you very much.
Hi, Ephraim. Thank you so much. If there are questions that people have around the end-to-end encryption checklist, the mini toolkit, please, the floor is open. You can ask any question you have, and Ephraim is available to answer. Are there no questions? Okay, if there are no questions, you would get the link to where to download the toolkit on our website. But you can check out our website. We'll drop the link to our website on the chat function. You can check out our website to download the mini toolkit and also the checklist. It's important that you see case studies of other startups across edtech, health tech, and how they are, of course, social platforms too, and how they are using encryption on their platforms. It would give you the idea on how you could also implement encryption on your own platform. Thank you again, Ephraim, for that section. So I'm going to call our next speaker. I'll quickly share my screen. Okay, so the next section is about open source tools that we can use as startups for encryption. Most of the times, the reason why startups think about encryption after maybe they've launched their platform is because they always are thinking about funding. We don't have enough money to do this, we don't have enough money to do that. And so, but there are open source tools that could help you start implementing encryption right before you even start building your startup or your products. So we have Emmanuel. Emmanuel is a distinguished cybersecurity and data protection consultant with deep expertise in IT governance, privacy, and forensic investigation. As a leading advocate for data privacy and security, he helps organizations navigate data protection laws and implement robust privacy programs. He holds a Bachelor's of Science in Information Technology and Master's in IT and Law, and is currently pursuing an LLB and PhD in Information Systems. Emmanuel is a certified ethical hacker, a certified computer forensic investigator, and holds a dual certification from the IAPP as a certified information privacy professional and a certified information privacy manager. In addition to being a certified data protection supervisor, DPC Ghana, he is the current president of the Ghana Association of Privacy Professionals, serves as the secretary of the Internet Society Ghana chapter, and is an adjunct lecturer at Academic City. So welcome, Emmanuel. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, blessings. Thank you very much. And I hope I am very audible. Am I?
Yes, I will stop sharing my screen so you can share if you have slides.
Okay. Okay. I think the others that have gone before me have done a very marvelous work. That makes my assignment very, very simple one. So there are so many things I wouldn't bother myself with us, but we'll quickly be going through a demo and how programmers or startups can implement these things in their systems. All right. Of course, other speakers from yesterday have spoken about how end-to-end encryption works perfectly and why we need to do that. So I'll not bother us again. Now, basically, there are two main modes of encryption that is available. That is the symmetric. It is very fast to use and you can use one. It's normally you would have to use one key, just one key to do the encryption. Now, what it means is that if I use a key, a particular key to encrypt, then the other side too must use that same key to open it up. Now, the challenge about this is how secure that key will be. So that is a major concern when it comes to symmetric encryption. And an example, the AES encryption. Then we have the asymmetric, which is the two-pair key. In this scenario, you have a two key sets. And this is also very advisable for programmers so that you would use maybe the vendor's or the customer's public key to encrypt the data so that they can use their private key to open it at their end in the application. And all these things can be built into applications. All right. So now, a lot in practice, you can use the two approaches, okay, all at the same time. So what one will do is that you use the symmetric to actually encrypt the data. Then you use the asymmetric system to also share that same information. All right. Now, a typical example, this is how to approach it. Because if you are going to use the asymmetric, you need two set pair of keys. So first of all, you need to be able to generate, okay, the two set of keys. All right. So now the command is very simple. So if you run on your black screen, especially do using MacBook, the command is the open SSL gen RSA. So that means open SSL generate RSA, which is the out server, which is the private key. So this is the command to generate this. Okay. Then you can also generate what's the, so this is for the server that is sending. The first one is for the server that is sending it, which is the out server. Then the in server is what? The server that is receiving. So you can use these two commands to generate both the private and the public key. So after this, you can see that you have generated a public and private key pair. These are very important. The public one is what you can share with everybody to use to encrypt data that is meant for you. Then you use your private key to actually what? Receive or open that particular one. All right. So for example, if we have a particular, let's say, for example, a detailed information or secret information that you want to send to somebody, you would now encrypt it. So programmers who use a JSON format, the JSON format is a type of there's a data sharing that is very common for different program platforms. So it is commonly used. So that's why I use that example, for example. So you first of all have to generate what's a random key. Okay, so open SSL R, and that's random key generation using base 64. All right. Now, programmers will understand the base 64 mechanism that you can generate. Then you will now encrypt the data. So these are commands. Okay, and I'll be sharing this with the team so that anybody who need access to it can actually use this to practice. All right. So after generating, and this is the data or the file, whichever item. So it could be a file, a report, or any kind of system API keys that you want to encrypt. You can do that through the commands that I have provided here. And then you encrypt and send. Then it goes out there. All right. Now it's to what? Transmit the data or the encrypted what? This and that you have done. So this is the command OpenSSL. So OpenSSL is actually embedded in most of these platforms or in programming IDEs. So I mean integrated development environments that a lot of people use. They are already implemented in these things. So it is something, or if not, some come as extensions that you can just download and install. Then you are able to use them in your programming activities. All right. So now, for a typical setup, so I'm using Alice and Bob communicating, okay? So you generate, first of all, you generate what's the out key, which is the private key, okay, for Alice. Then you use Alice private key, public key here. All right. So the second line is that of what? Bob's. So you are generating another private key, this in for Bob, and the hot public key for what? Bob. So here, so two different set of keys have been generated for anybody. So remember, always when you are using the asymmetric, okay, then it means at any point in time, two set of keys must be generated for one particular person or entity or platform or system, which will have the private and the public key at any point. So the generation must be done for these two at the same time. All right. So after generating this, now we would use what? So this is the message that we have created. That is Bob. The launch code is 12345. So this is a message. This one we are piping it into a message called a file called what? Message.tsc. Piping. I think programmers will understand that. We are directing the output into that particular file. After that, we will now encrypt it. Okay. So you encrypt the file that you have done. In Alice, it is encrypted message to Bob. Then Alice will now send the message. So this is an example of how platforms communicate. Okay, now I'll be demonstrating this practically so that you understand that, well, these are things that are worked in the logics. So the user does not see or is not likely to interfere with this process because it is part of the programming itself or the platform for development. All right. So now Bob will now use his private key to what? And decrypt the message. So if you have a 2-pair key, if I want to send you an encrypted or safe information, I'm going to use your public key to encrypt it. And once encrypted, it is only your private key that can open it. So anytime you are sending message to Bob, we are going to use what? Bob's what? Public key. And the public key, you make it available. It is something, that is why it is public. It's available. People can request for it and then use. So once the individual or that platform receives it, it will now use what? Its what? Private key to actually decrypt the message. To decrypt the message. Now you can do all this through the use of APIs on platforms. Of course, I'm going to be mentioning some of the platforms for us. All right. Now, for those who use PHP, well, I'm a lover of PHP, so I would always talk about it. So we have these functionalities or functions embedded in PHP that you can use. So we have the OpenSSL_encrypt. So anytime you would want to encrypt a particular, this is the function that you call. This is already existing in most PHP frameworks. So those using Laravel, Yi, and the rest, it is already in it. You just have to, if it is not, you just have to update, and then you have these functionalities in them, all right, to actually encrypt and decrypt. So this is actually the commands that you can have. And there's a whole manual on these things when you want to read further and then use them. All right, so an example of how a message could be what? Encrypted, okay? So the plain text, which is the message or the file that you want to encrypt, that is it. Then you go through the command, your cipher. The cipher is something that you want to use to aid what? The encryption. So once you run command set like this, the plain text and the cipher will now create the encryption. Okay. We'll encrypt the document. So this is what you see encrypted. So OpenSSL, the plain text, which is this one that you have here, plus the cipher and all the parameters, and then you encrypt. So when it gets to the recipient end, then we use the decrypt functionality to actually decrypt the message. Now, when this message is being transmitted, because it is encrypted, no man in the middle attack for hackers or anybody can interrupt and understand the message. It will be meaningless to them. So until they get to the other side, when it will be what? Decrypted. All right. So there's also an enhanced one in PHP from PHP 7.2 plus going. It includes what we call the sodium extension. So you see lib sodium, that's the library sodium, okay? An API, which is easier for you to use for your cryptographic functions. So these are not things that you have to code from scratch. Okay, they are already done and embedded into systems that we can actually use. All right, so I'm going to go online and share with us some very simple tool and platform that we can see. A minute. Okay, so this platform, okay. So this is exactly what you are going to. So your plain text is here, okay? So this is your plain text. Read message. So for example, all right, so I'll first of all try without the key, okay? And later I'll come with that. So if I encrypt, okay, so this message, this is a secret message. This is the encrypted version. So this is what actually is going to pass through the system. You are going to communicate from one end to another end. Okay. From one end to another end. So it's going to be something that is what? This thing, when you get it, it's unusable to you. So you wouldn't be able to make any meaning out of this. All right. So it will pass through and get to the destination. So now you see, now this is the decryption side. So this is the encryption side. We've done the encryption. So if, for example, you are using OpenSSL_encrypt, okay, in PHP function, your message will be encrypted like that. This will be the final result of your message or your file encrypted this way. Now, when it gets to the receiving end, okay, this is what will come to it, and then it decrypts. Then you can see the message, but the transmission has been this. So encrypted message from the sender, it gets to the receiver or the recipient, and this is it. Then the decryption is done. Now, this decryption, it's not that you have to go and type and be pressing decryption, but it could be depending on how the programmer will put it. Maybe some keys or something that is sent to you, a code that is sent to you that you would have to enter and it to do that, or automatically. So for example, an automated one is what we see in the use of WhatsApp. Your chats automatically, it goes through this process, but it is automatically or decrypted because the decryption keys are embedded at actually both sides. So that is what actually happens. Now, this same thing, there are times that you can add a key. Okay, so if you add a secret key to it, so maybe you can say the secret key is what? 54321. So that means when the other party or the other side wants to open, they will be requested. Now you can make mention of a key, you can program it as a code. Once entered, then the decryption will happen. All right, so you see, if it's encrypted, so you can see this one, you see, has a key. You see the decryption, the encryption is different from this one without a key. All right, okay, so we get it from here. And you will bring it. Okay, so now, because it has a key, you have to indicate that it requires a key. If you decrypt it, will not mind you because you see error, because we have not provided the key. Then 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. When you decrypt now, you get what? The actual message. All right. So basically, this is how these things are. So all the commands that I was showing, they are behind the scene doing these things. So you as the programmer, is it something that would need a human intervention? Then you have to program a set to allow for human intervention. If not, then it will automatically be done like the way it is done on WhatsApp for us that we have currently. That's why WhatsApp will tell you it is what? Encrypting from end-to-end encryption. Because these are embedded and the commands are there for you to actually use. Okay. Now, one of the tools that I have played around with, if I am programming, I would, in my PHP programs, I use actually the OpenSSL command, the OpenSSL, because that one is free, you can use and embed in your programming and it will work fine. But there are other tools like TrueCrypt. TrueCrypt is there for you to use. So I think I will share, let me share the link, TrueCrypt, a tools that you can use. See. We have TrueCrypts. So I'm sharing the link. Yeah. So you can use TrueCrypts. There's also VeraCrypt. VeraCrypt is also there for you to use. We also have Cryptometer. Cryptometer is also there for you to use. So these are, most of them have APIs that you can actually venture into. Just study the formats and then you are good to go to use. All right, so basically these tools are there and they are also embedded in the IDEs. So you check your IDE that you are using for your development or the framework. Most of them have these things inside. So yours is to learn how to implement it in your in your programming or in your solution that you are giving to your customers. So basically, this is how it is, and it is very easy to implement. Once you have the understanding, you can implement it on actually any platform that you built. And this is, you have control over all these things as you have built them. So it's a very good thing if you use it. It also adds value to your products and shows your customers that, hey, you are on top of the game and you have demonstrated these things. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, this is where I bring my demo to an end and ready for any questions from you.
Thank you so much, Emmanuel. So I don't know if there are questions. We can drop on the chat if you have questions. If you have questions, you can drop on the chat or come off mute and ask your questions. I personally have a few questions for Emmanuel.
Okay.
So I'll just quickly ask mine why people think about theirs. So based on what you presented, I wanted to know if there are open source tools that are low code or no code friendly that startups with less strong technical teams can use. So basically, if you don't have a strong technical person in your team that would understand all the coding or whatever aspect of it, is there a low code or no code friendly tool that they can use to be able to do their encryption?
Okay. Yes. So the VeraCrypt or the tools that I've said, they are very simple things to use. You don't need any technical complexity. The technical side that I said is only for programmers who would want to program it into the software solutions that they are. But for organizations or startups, you want to encrypt data and send. For example, if you download TrueCrypt, VeraCrypt, they just have graphical interface. It's a click, click, click matter. You don't need actually to embed any code in it. So those ones are very user-friendly for people, normal users who do not have any technical understanding to programming. But if let's say the startup is a developer, you are developing solutions, that is when the coding and other things will now come in. Do you get me?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
All right.
So basically, I have a second question.
Yes, please.
How can startups evaluate which of these open source tools are reliable and actively maintained? Because so that they know what is appropriate for what they are building, because there are a lot of tools there.
Okay, so these 3 or 4 that I have said actually have maintained a long standing. However, so for example, TrueCrypt has been in the system for quite a very long time. VeraCrypt and Cryptometer, they've been in the system for a long time. So you can check their history. So if any new one comes on board, of course, as a programmer, if you want to use this, you want to see the support that it has in the ecosystem, how many people are using it, and the reviews that people have spoken about before you venture and try to use that. Because like you are saying, yes, there are times that they come into the scene, but lack of support for the community and the tools, then they fade out. So if you are still relying on it, with time, you realize that, hey, you have encrypted some things, but at the end of the day, you may not get the support if you have any issues. So you read the reviews about them on technical platforms, or you ask questions as to who and who has used them before, so that you will see how long it has been in the system before you venture using them in your platforms. Yeah. I think you are mute.
Oh, so thank you, Emmanuel. I don't know if any other person has a question before Emmanuel can jump off. Okay. All right.
Right. Mr. Gadasu, thank you for going through the content. I joined in while in the meeting, but it's great content that you shared, and happy to revisit it. The question that I have is this, right? Sometimes it looks like the drawback for people to use open source tools when it comes to security is the fact that they're questioning how secure it can be, right? Because we have many people contributing and many and a maintainer. I mean, it's open for people to contribute as and when, right? So how can startup founders or the people here gathered prioritize or make sure that the security, like they prioritize security in choosing some of these tools? And is there anyone that you particularly say, hey, this is vetted, this is really good, security is prioritized, so I would recommend this for you?
Okay, so when it comes to open source things, enterprises, commercial enterprises are always scared now because of the support. Because if it's open source, you mostly rely on the community support. Not that you have a dedicated somebody that if anything happens, they can bring you on board. They can bring you on board. So that is the fear a lot of systems and platforms actually have. But other than that, these are very well vetted. TrueCrypt, they have been in the system for a long time and you can use them. Very accurate, you can use them. So the fear is actually from a business perspective. The solution will be provided, but in a business, they want the thing done within the shortest possible time. So that is the only way. But at least it is better to have some form of encryption to protect your system than not having anyone at all, because maybe you don't have what money or the resources to get the commercial ones. So we would advise that definitely you should be able to use some of these tools in your product and services, at least to provide the assurance that yes, you are able to incorporate these things into them. Yes. So for businesses, from day one, they have always had issues with open source things, and it is normal for enterprises. So that one, don't be scared when these things begin to come out. It's normal in the yes.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you so much. Really insightful. Thank you.
All right. You're welcome.
Thank you again, Emmanuel. Really insightful session. So I'm going to quickly share my screen. The next session, we're going to be going directly to the founders themselves, quickly having a breakout section for the founders. Even if you're not a founder, you're working in a company, or you would like to start up a business in tech. So this section can be helpful for you. So I'm going to open up the breakout room. You can choose which of the breakout rooms that you want to join, whether health tech, fintech, and then in that breakout room, discuss basically 3 prompts that we have. We are going to share that prompt on the chat. So join any of the breakout rooms that you feel you want to build your startup around. So yes, the breakout rooms are opened now. Please let me know if you're able to join any of them.
Yes, I see the option to join.
Okay. So I'm going to share the prompt on the chat. So this is the discussion prompt for people to discuss around what they are building and what they intend to build, or in the product their organization already has. I'm seeing just one person joining a breakout room. Please, where are the other people on this call? Please join the breakout room that you feel is related to what you're passionate about or the product you already are building. If you're thinking of how to join a breakout room, you would see the 3 dots if it's open, or the 3 dots. You see the breakout room after the three dots where you have more, or by this left side of your screen, you see where we have the breakout room. There are a few more people on the call. Would you want me to assign you to a breakout room? You can drop the, we have health tech, fintech, ed tech, AI and emerging tech, and social platforms. So if you love me to assign you, you can drop the breakout room you want to join, and I can assign you to that breakout room. Okay. Angela, Mary, Aisha, do you want to be assigned to any breakout room? I'll quickly assign you to the one you want. We have health tech. Okay, Aisha has joined the breakout room. Okay, Angela, Mary, would you like to be assigned to a breakout room? Angela, what breakout room do you want to be assigned to? We have fintech, health tech, ed tech, AI and emerging tech, social platforms. Okay. If you're joining us, so I'm seeing someone that just joined. We are in a breakout section. If you would love to be assigned to a breakout room, just let us know. Hi, everyone. The breakout rooms are closed now. I'm expecting people to start returning to the main room. Welcome back, everyone. So I would like, in 2 minutes or less, someone can come off mute and share, based on the sector they selected, what's the 3 questions. What are some of the sensitive data they identified in their sector? What the plans are in terms of the product they are building, etc. Just 1 or 2 volunteers from the different sectors. So fintech, edtech, somebody from fintech, somebody from edtech. Okay, so just for one of our speakers to be able to meet up with her other meeting, so we'll come back to this section again after that section. So I will quickly share my screen and then we can introduce Lily. Okay, so we have Lily. Thank you for making the time to join us, and thank you for coming yesterday too, even though you didn't have a section. So she's a PhD candidate in information technology at the University of Cincinnati. She is also a former adjunct instructor, a TEDx Cincinnati speaker, and currently serves as a member of Advisory Council of the American Registry for Internet Numbers. She actively contributes to global technology and internet governance community with a strong focus on privacy, cybersecurity, women and youth inclusion, accessibility, and digital sustainability. In her role as a policy analyst, she examines how emerging technology intersects with governance and translates complex technical issues into actionable insights, and provides recommendations that help shape inclusive and effective policy outcomes. Her policy and technical advocacy are grounded in human-centered, scalable, and sustainable tech solutions. She has experience in security frameworks, regulatory standards such as GDPR, NIST, HIPAA. Lily is especially passionate about empowering women in STEM, a commitment she champions through diverse outreach programs. Thank you, Lily, for making the time.
Thank you so much, Joy and team. And hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where in the world you're joining in from. So because I have an on-site meeting, I'm in an open space, and hopefully the voice isolation is working and you don't hear the noise in the background. Is that fine? You can just give me a thumbs up, say in the chat if you can hear it scripts and all. Absolutely. And I love to engage with the audience. So I want to believe that we are an interactive audience and that we will do this together. The idea is not to come offload or come to upload information and leave. I want to see some of your thoughts. I want to hear from you. I want to also learn from you. And because you have just a short time to get through this, I would share my screen quickly and get through this, and we can ask any questions as we're moving along. Please use the chat to be interactive, and let's do this together. I'm going to share my screen. Please let me know once you see it. Let's do this. It's a couple of things on the screen, so pardon me for the mini screen to see it. Let's go. Right, so one of the things that the team asked that I looked into was to talk about policies around encryption and to look into some of the myths that have been going around and some of the pushbacks. Now, many people have advocated for different things for different reasons. And I'm just taking a couple of them to walk us through so we can see some of the things happening out there. And maybe for a founder, if you are working in any of those areas, you'd probably be thinking about what it looks like for your work and your domain. Again, my name is Lily, and just like you, I love to learn. So hopefully we do that together. I'm from Ghana, and that is where you see the arrow pointing to. But usually when I do some of these presentations, I love to point out the fact that all of us, by dint of the fact that we work online, we communicate to people online, we do not just come from where we are from or where we were born at or where we legally affiliate with. We have all become dual citizens because we have online citizenship and they call us netizens. So aside from your home country, you're also an online netizen and you have citizenship online. So if you're thinking about security in the offline spaces where you want to keep yourself secure, where you want to be able to make sure that, look, things are working for you in the offline world, you want to think the same in the online world because we literally live online daily for school, for work and whatnot, right? So you're not just from Ghana, from Nigeria, from Kenya, you also are from online. So if somebody were to ask you, just say, hey, because of what we do, we also have that charge to make sure that the online space is secure because we all live here basically. I have a question for you. And like I said, I love this session to be very interactive. So this question is for you to just share your thoughts. There's no right or wrong answer, but just to see what our thinking is right now and to lean into what the space looks like when it comes to encryption policies online, right? Or out there. So imagine the government mandates that all new home door locks must have a hidden universal master key. And with that master key, only police can use it during an emergency. So if this were the case and all of us have to adhere to this, does building the universal master key have give us the opportunity to be more secure or less secure, right? So I want you to take in go to the chat and say if we had this happening, right? That everybody's home, you've bought a home, wherever you live, there's a universal master key that only police can use during an emergency. So does building this universal master key access ultimately make all our homes less secure or more secure? I want to see in the chat. Even you can even use the emojis, a thumbs up, a thumbs down. Let's see whether it works for you. Do you think it's less secure or more secure? Okay, I'll be looking into the chat. Somebody says it depends. Okay, that is granted. Can we see some more? What do you think? So this is for only police. Now police has the access, nobody else does, and they're supposed to use it only during emergencies. So do you think it makes your home more secure or less secure? Let's see some more answers in the chat, or even a thumbs up or a thumbs down, if you agree with it or not. Like I said, let's be interactive, right? So okay, less secure. So how sure are we that the police is correct? Well, that is a big issue, right? Let's go on. I see that I love the different angles that this is going. Any other person, does the police having this master key and not very sustainable? Okay, I agree to that. What else do you think? Okay, now let me add a little caveat to this, right? So I believe it depends. I love that. Now, the other caveat is that, okay, where you live, there are many more crimes, right? So you need police to come into the building to help you. And if they have the emergency master key, and it means that you be safe, right? So if you knew that your area is susceptible to a lot of crimes, would you say, hey, police, come in? I agree. Please just come in and do what you have to do. Let's see again in the chat. What do you think? It's okay. I love the earlier thoughts, but if you hear this now, would you say, okay, I agree that they come in? Any thoughts? What would you say? Should we have this power given to the police? And do you think it makes you more secure or less secure? But I'll go in and I'll read the chats as and when. Now, this is not in Nigeria. I see. Now, this is what the space looks like when it comes to encryption policies. It is really one of the most contentious policies around. Reason being that people are saying, like, I know we've had the foundation of what encryption is. Mr. Gadasu and the other speakers have spoken about it. You are encrypting something. You're having it move from one end to the other, and only the person that is intended for that has access and authorization can open it. But in between, yes, some people are saying, hey, let's make sure that we can look at it, and they call it something like backdoor access. Let's see whether we can intercept if there's an issue, to be able to maybe address things of like national security or child and safety and whatnot, right? So that's some of the things that we've been seeing out there. And I'll go back to the chat to see what you've written. Aisha says less secure. Somebody says not in Ghana. So absolutely, right? Okay, now let's go on. Let's see. I think it will only work in some regions or more developed countries. So let me give you my thoughts. I know all of you gave you ideas, but if there was something like that, somebody had mentioned, how sure are we that the police is correct? Or like, how sure are we that they don't also have malicious intent? So everybody knows the police is your friend, in quote, but sometimes you've had instances where the police really harm people, right? It's good that they're coming in to help, but what if the intent is not for a good reason? But we see that there can be many instances or scenarios where it could sway. It could either be good or bad. And that is what we are seeing. But the advocacy about encryption is one that really should lean towards, hey, let's make sure there's no other access. And the reason is that you don't want to weaken encryption. Let's go on and read some more. Now, okay, let's go there. I know I shared this quickly. So in 2021, there was this massive shock. And a question I have here for you is, did you move? Everybody was running from WhatsApp looking for the next secure app to be on, right? And if you know, for Africa, one of our biggest instant messaging platforms is WhatsApp. And for me, I live here in the US, my family's in Ghana, but I usually will communicate through WhatsApp because it's affordable, it's easy to use, my parents understand it, right? But in 2021, there was an issue where people were thinking about, there was a policy update really, and it caused a stir. And in that policy update, people were saying, hey, WhatsApp is going to share data of like its users with its parent company, which is Mensah, right? And people were saying, is that ethical, or should we allow that? So everybody was saying, hey, we want to move to something like Signal, we want to move to something like Telegram, and everybody was moving. So the question I have for you was, did you move? Did you move during that time? Was that enough reason regarding sharing data that would warrant you having to move? And if you moved, why did you do so? And if you didn't move, why? Right? So I know that your chat, you probably drop your comment in the chat, but one of the things that I saw was that people were weighing the options for what it is that is secure, and some went to Telegram and they thought, oh, Telegram even though it has encryption, end-to-end encryption, it still saves stuff on the cloud. So let's move to Signal. Signal just saves locally, it's secure, end-to-end. It is really one of the most popular ones, right? So people went to Signal. But then the clarification came and WhatsApp was saying, hey, you've got the power, you've got the control, and we are not entirely going to share all your data with our parent company, but we are looking to, in fact, one of the things we're looking to push out there was like the idea of interoperability or something of the sort, right? But that is what happened. So what people read on the news causes them to take an action on that. And end-to-end encryption is one of the things that users all over the world are literally living for. They want it, they need it, and they want it to be there for people. Now, I know that we've spoken a lot about online activities, and in the past conversations, we've seen some of the ways people connect and people share information and people share data. But the shocker is that we are on one layer of this web. There are many things happening. And that's why when we talk about security, it's so much deep rooted and not just something that is shallow. There's more to it than meets the eye, right? And here I share that there is more to the web. So you've probably heard about the deep web or the dark web. And I think it was Mr. Kunle in his presentation. He mentioned how people access some of the items on the dark web using routers like Onion, Tor, the I2P, that's Invisible Internet Project. I think that's what it's called, right? But there are many people who go beyond just what we know to access information. And these are people doing good things and illegal things. The good things are people who do investigative journalism. They are in places in the world where they can't talk freely. Maybe their freedom is curtailed. So they have to make sure that they are speaking in places where they know that they are protected. There's anonymity or there's obscurity. And in other places, some too are just doing illegal things. Some people sell drugs that are not supposed to be sold. Some people sell, sadly, child pornography, and all of this is happening. So the reason why we talk about encryption and ask people to like stand for it and advocate for it is because there are things that are happening deeper than we see. And if we don't protect the very core of the internet and the web, we may be allowing anything and everything. And in the long run, it will not augur well for all users, right? So this is what I wanted to point out, that there's more to it than meets the eye. Now, many organizations usually would stand for and advocate for encryption, and I put some snippets here from Internet Society, talking through some of the Internet Society and also Mozilla Foundation, backing some organizations to say, hey, we stand for encryption. Do not let governments and the legal institutions probably force you or scare you to weaken encryption. There are many, many ones over the years. I picked a couple from 2023, from 2022, 2024, and there are many organizations. And as we celebrate even encryption, the Global Encryption Day today, there are many other events that are happening where people are given very good reasons why encryption should be protected at all costs, right? So let's just go in right now to look at some of the things that have been regulatory issues, what the myths are or were, and how people stood to debunk them, right? And I think that's the core or the crux of the conversation, that we look into some of the things that have been out there in the past, and why, if encryption is upheld, it is rather helpful. So I want to also touch on just what policy means. Sometimes it is defined because it has a connection with government. It's like we define it to be like more of what governments choose to do or not to do. And it is not just that. What they choose to do or not to do, it has outcomes. The outcomes can be whether good or bad. And then in its entirety, the consequences and actions can affect citizens. But not only government has policies, there are organizations that have policies internally across the globe. Even in your workplace, you have policies. What that looks like is that you are putting together a certain kind of guideline that directs action, that defines scope and ensures compliance. So when we talk about policy, think about compliance, actions that should be adhered to, and whatnot. So when we talk about encryption policies, you're talking about all of these governing or guidelines they're supposed to be adhered to be able to ensure encryption is existent. Or some of the policies that exist, but then in essence, some people want it to be reviewed because they feel something about it, and policies do change. So we'll go to one of the popular cases quickly. It was FBI versus Apple. We are entering into some of the legal spaces. If you're a lawyer, please feel free to comment some more. But this is just really in summary what it is like. So there was a shooting in San Bernardino in the US, and this was, I think, around 2016. And the US government and FBI was demanding that Apple create a custom iOS version to decrypt data on a lock phone of this shooter. So they want to be able to bypass what it is that's encryption that Apple has, so that they can be able to see details of what the crime was, if there was anybody involved in it, or if they can trace whatever the person did to the point where the crime was committed, right? Now, this is a myth. They were thinking that so the outlook from demanding something like this is that a trusted third party like a government can hold the golden key or master key to access data only when legally necessary. So these people had literally they had a court back end to be able to do this. But that is the concept of backdoor access. Once you let something loose in encryption, you have literally given criminals a gift. So it is always that constant battle between privacy, security, privacy and the security imperative. Like, how do we make sure that we protect data of people, but also how do we make sure that there's security? And it's always rubbing against each other. But putting out the fact that, oh, if government has the legal rights to do that, they should have access to it, it beats the thought of encryption. Now, this is how it's debunked. A backdoor is a vulnerability. It means you are losing something. It means that concept of encryption is not even fulfilled. That end-to-end is not there. There's been some interception somewhere. And it is a vulnerability and not just a feature. Like, you can't add that as a feature. You are lessening what it is that's supposed to be secure and help users, right? So once an intentional flaw is built into the software, it ceases to be end-to-end encryption, right? And so this flaw immediately becomes the single most vulnerable target for every criminal and state actor globally. Let's go back to our scenario at the beginning. So they have this key. What if on there they realize that, oh, probably there are properties that probably the shooters sadly has, and the policeman says, okay, because it's a criminal, he's going to be in prison, I'm going to take his information, use it for whatever I want, and probably take charge of, say, his credit cards, his properties and whatnot. You can be using the backdoor access to be able to trace their illegal activities. But what else are you looking at that you're not supposed to have access to as a legal institution or like a security institution? The idea is that also once that is loosened, criminals are everywhere looking to tap into every open port to be able to do whatever they want to do. So you want to make sure that is what you're trying to paint is that is not always the case if you have even legal access to want to go through the backdoor access. Now, the importance of standing firm and making sure that this doesn't happen is that you are able to prevent technical degradation. Like I said, it is more than meets the eye. There are many things happening that security is pretty much needed, right? So resistant mandatory decryption like this preserves the mathematical integrity of the security technology, and it ensures that the product offered to citizens is honest and secure. Think about it. You promise a user, like Apple promises a user, hey, encryption, but then they go back and they go back on their word because, hey, there's a legal backing to be able to do that, to be able to have that backdoor access. Now you can see that as, oh, it's a bummer, or you can say maybe that's correct and Apple is looking at the user's interests, right? All of those can be argued, and that's why I mentioned at the beginning that the scenario I gave can sway both ways, both good or bad, and there has to be, we usually say, multi-stakeholder approach to discuss what is the alternative if this cannot be, right? Okay, let's see. Somebody said, can we say then blockchain can be integrated in end-to-end encryption? I've not thought of that technically, but one of the things about blockchain is that people like blockchain because of how it's transparent. You can literally see whatever is happening, the node from what happened. It's like they call it a ledger. Everything that's done, you can see wherever it's coming from and all. I don't know how that will work together technically, but blockchain also has the feature of, from the past, people have spoken about how robust it is, and the transparency makes it really clear for like people to be able to see who did what, and so if they wanted to hold somebody accountable, they know who to trace. But encryption really is, nobody has to see something that they don't have authorization to see or access to see. So it may be an interesting mix of blockchain, which is more transparent, and encryption, which is saying, hey, let's keep it secure. That I've not thought of, but probably, who knows if there's a legislation or something, but it would maybe conflict a bit because of what it stands for originally, right? So that's what I'll say about that. Let's go to another case. Here, we have EU's chat control and this child safety, and this is dear to my heart. And here we can have two schools of thoughts, which could be true or would work well. But again, we want to make sure that we are looking at the greater good. And if there are alternatives, you can look at the alternatives rather, like how somebody's proposing, hey, is there an opportunity to probably merge blockchain and encryption, right? Technically, not too sure what that looks like, right? But then what are the alternative answers? So here in this policy, and I'm checking my time to make sure that we are good on time. In this policy, the EU chat control legislation and other similar global proposals, what it does is that it requires messaging apps to implement what they call client-side scanning for detecting illegal content. And here I give an example as the child sexual abuse material, which is sad. Imagine people's love for spreading such content on a vulnerable demographic as little and very vulnerable like children, right? And what the client side scanning does is, in essence, before anything, if I understand correctly, I think if I'm able to paint it as a clear picture for you, before anything goes out, scan it to see whether it has any content that is malicious, that is not helpful before it goes out and before the encryption is applied, right? Here's a myth. We can scan messages before they're encrypted for dangerous content without fundamentally breaking user privacy. So what people are saying is that, oh, when we do this, we're just really scanning for if there are any malicious content before it goes out, right? And then they're saying that only the bad messages will be flagged. That is what they're saying. But that is a myth because, look, think about it. People have gone on protests, or they've not, maybe peaceful protest, or probably just passing by the protest, and there were street cameras that have picked their photos. And because of maybe their race, their religion, their affiliation, they've been profiled wrongly, right? And they've been probably arrested for things that probably they didn't do. We've seen time and time again that sometimes information can be misused for the right or wrong, for the right from the wrong reasons, right? So if you're saying, hey, we just look at only bad messages, how sure is a user, or how sure are users, right, to understand that? So here's how people are standing for it, and then they're debunking it. What they're saying is that when scanning breaks the principle of privacy by design, what we are saying is that we are not supposed to have privacy as an afterthought. It should be inbuilt, default. It should be there already, right? So once you have the CSS happening and the scanning happening, you turn the user's personal device into a surveillance device. So you bought it, but you don't own it. The legal entities, the security institutions have access. They can see whatever. And would you want that, right? So now what you're saying is that the technology must examine all private content locally, creating a massive surveillance. It doesn't just, it will not automatically flag a bad content unless it has scanned everything. So even things that we're not supposed to see, probably will be seeing them, right? And this also creates a massive surveillance infrastructure that can be easily repurposed to scan for political dissent, religious views, or sensitive personal information by any government. And I gave you an example of even the street cameras, for example, and how people have been profiled wrongly, right? Now, what are people saying here? Let's stand firm against CSS. And when you do that, it protects the ability of journalists, dissidents, and everyday users in all countries. Like I mentioned, some people operate on the dark and deep web because their freedom is curtailed in the countries where they come from. You can't speak freely and live. So they'll rather want ways to like securely support citizens and be protected themselves than to communicate and then come under fire, right? So to ensure that people are communicating freely without fear that their personal devices are actively betraying them, it is important that we stand firm against CSS, which also weakens encryption, right? Now, another one, this one, I'll touch on it quickly while I check the time too. We have about 7 minutes more and we're running through quickly. So in other places like the UK and Australia, and I've seen a lot of people advocating for things that have come out of the UK, for example. And I think Europe, for example, they really have many things happening in their encryption and legal spaces and their privacy spaces a lot. Pretty much maybe light years ahead of what we have in our African continent, right? But there have been instances where they've said, for example, in Australia and the UK, that security organizations should be given what is assistance or given access when requested, right? And so what that means is that they're looking to see how they're compelling the companies to provide technical assistance to law enforcement. And sometimes they even want them to build like something that would allow them to be able to access some of these things. And it's not what it was originally built to be on the platforms that have promised encryption. So this is a myth. The myth is that they're saying that, hey, companies are obstructing justice. And from all that I've mentioned, you probably think, oh, you're obstructing justice really by refusing to help police access criminals' communication. And the legal and security institutions who say they just need to be more cooperative. So you, the companies, the software manufacturers, the web, allow this to happen. When they do that though, here's how people debunk it. Compliance is physically impossible without true end-to-end encryption. Think about it. If somebody says there's end-to-end encryption, it means that they can't even themselves access what is happening, like what you are sending. So for them to be able to give or decrypt the content, it means they were not really even encrypting. Like, how did it happen? Probably another thing that allowed them to be able to intercept the information, but that is not the agreement, that is not the promise to a user. And so what they're trying to do is that they're pushing back this proposals from government and saying that we want to shift, they're trying to shift the legal burden onto companies and redesign the products to be insecure, but that should not be the case. How about it start from offline? How about security people and the security agencies are funded to do more? They are funded to do more, even investigations, even in the offline world, like they've been doing in the past, and not really wanting to hop onto everything that is online in the digital space, right? So people are saying that we can't promise, there's no compliance if you break end-to-end encryption, and you can't even have end-to-end encryption truly without complying. You have to comply to what it is that you're promising to be users. And so here they're saying that people should advocate and resist regulators who try to say that, hey, we want to bypass what it is as end-to-end encryption. And they're saying that rather than passing laws to attempt to regulate the laws of mathematics that is with encryption, what they're doing is actually forcing companies to deploy weak encryption. So it means that it's weaker, then people can easily intercept it and can use it for whatever. So that is what it is in those spaces in the European world and from what we've seen elsewhere in the US and all. But let's come to the African context. And this is one of my last before we finish. So in Africa, we do not have a lot of, well, countries differ, but you see a lot of things around data protection and cybersecurity, encryption policies, and then the regulatory policies regarding encryption. It's not really as popular, but there's something that South Africa does. It has the Regulation for Interception of Communications and Provision for Communication-Related Information Act. What is that? Is that it's a law governing the interception of electronic communication, and here it just tells the telcos, let us be able to intercept and see what is happening in your network. Let us be able to go through and see you. Now, what people are saying is that if you enable the interception and you retain communication-related information, they're supposed to hold it for up to 5 years. They're saying that is not the best. Like literally, people's data are being held for what they don't know, maybe for good or for bad. And then they're going on to say, hey, even though this is not directly linked to encryption, you would in the long run be weakening what it says that protects when it comes to security. So you're compromising in the long run some of the security that some of these platforms are promising even users. And so in the past, this regulation has had significant legal challenges over its invasiveness and the threat to privacy, because whatever you're collecting probably has PII, personal identifiable information, probably puts people in harm's way, which they don't know. So in essence, these are some of the things that are out there. I know I've spoken a lot, but we are done. And I just want to end with some of the things that people are doing, a call to action. And today you see a lot of them online. You can check the Global Encryption Coalition, the Internet Society pages, Mozilla Foundation pages. Many of them have a couple of campaigns they are running. And what they're doing is that they're demanding transparency. And you can also be a part. You can insist that services you use, like WhatsApp, your banking apps and all of those, you can make sure that they provide auditable end-to-end encryption. You can also educate others. So explain the all or nothing nature of encryption to those who believe regulatory myths. Tell them that, hey, there's no back end that really helps us. And use a home lock analogy. People can use it for bad reasons, right? And then engage policy, like track the policy, the proposed legislation. Some are online today, see what is happening. Sometimes they ask for you to sign petitions, sign them if you can. You can sign it in your own regard, or if you have an organization, you can come together and do that. But in essence, that is how you can be a part of it. So I just want to end by saying something I said in the beginning, that encryption is not just a feature, it is a fundamental architecture of trust in the digital world. And protecting it is not just about protecting data, it's about protecting democracy, free speech, and the personal safety of everyone who relies on a secure internet. Remember, there is more to it than meets the eye. There are many, many layers, so you do not want to weaken something that really helps us, right? And so that is all I had to share. And here is a code I saw, and this I've taken, I think, in the past. The Internet Society has a self-moderated encryption course that you can take. So you can feel free to scan this and take the course. You can take it in a couple of hours. It's not too long. And feel free, just do some learning. But I can also put the link in the chat. And that's all about it. I hope you learned something and happy to engage with you further online. Feel free to look up my name, connect, let's be in touch. So that is the content I had today. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you so much, Lily. Thank you so much. It was really insightful. I'm not a policy person, but I think I was really educated, really educated. So I don't know if anybody has a question, because I have one before Lily jumps off the call. Any questions in the chat? Anyone that wants to come off mic, off mute, and ask their questions?
I think I see Ephraim's hand. Maybe he wants to take his question, then you can go after.
Okay. Ephraim, you can come off mute.
Okay, sure. Lily, I mean,
Yeah.
that was a wonderful one. I know you always bring so much energy to whatever you present. I mean, that was really great. Thank you for that. My question is with regards to one of the slides. You mentioned one particular act in South Africa. And yes, so I want to know how what is the intersection between that particular act in South Africa and POPIA, because you know POPIA is their data protection. I mean, that deals with their data protection bit. So I just want to know that intersection. And also if let's say in Ghana here, do we have a particular act or law that also helps to guide those bits? Or I mean, it's under the data protection act?
Yeah.
I want to know.
I would say more under, like in Africa, right? It is more under Data Protection Act for countries that have and that is for countries that have them, like Ghana does. And there are other people who also did ratify the AU's cybersecurity the cybersecurity, I think it's called a law or an act, one of those. But the idea is that most of them fall under there. So there's no specific just saying, hey, this is encryption based, but we really know that the basis of encryption is the data you collect, and that's privacy related and security, right? So the idea is that those fall under there. And you mentioned you said the link between the RICA and then you gave the other.
Yeah, POPIA.
Yeah, I really do not see true from what I've read online. It's not as though there's a direct link, but think about it. If they are collecting data and they are also and the RICA is also supposed to be for interception, in essence, there probably will be some communication. The idea is that people are able, these organizations work hand in hand sometimes, and sometimes we see duplication of efforts when it comes to even what they collect. But I've not seen what it is that the link is. But for people working in the same space in the same country, probably they also would have, say, conversations and agreements as to what it is that they're able to collect or whatnot. Who knows? They probably would also be maybe they'll check each other, what you can collect, what you cannot. But maybe in the long run, government can say, hey, give us this information. And it's usually what cripples a lot of the organizations, that they have their own institutions that have some mandates to deliver. But overall, government sometimes has a lot over or has more power. Think about it. They're in charge of what it is that is regulatory, or they have an arm that can do that. So in essence, what would happen is that they've tried their best, or they've probably advocated in a certain way, trying to speak on behalf of citizens. But when government says, hey, do this, they will have to do it. So the final word I have is that I do not know what the exact link is, but because they are institutions probably in the same space and actually working in the same country, they'll be maybe checked by themselves. And in the long run, they'll really have to answer to government, and government has to actually take the ideas, the requests of citizens into being. So hopefully government in the long run really supports what citizens are asking for. So that is what I'll say about that.
Okay, sure. Thank you.
Ephraim. Yeah. It was.
Thank you, Lily.
Joy.
Thank you, Ephraim. Yeah, my network is a bit slow, but I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so my question is around balancing the trade-offs. There is a lot of there is high level of CSAM going on. It's talked about. There is a lot of it happening in terms of child exploitation. How can founders balance the trade-off between user privacy through encryption and maintaining safety, especially for children, especially for founders that are building around edtech tools that children use? How can they make the balance between these two trade-offs?
Right. I think always, and for anybody building for any demographic, the idea is that don't think of them or don't think of the user as an afterthought. Usually for founders or developers, right, we build an idea and we do not really do what they call human-centered research, that we are looking to see who is going to be using the content, what it is that could be possible threats, and how we can protect them. I'll give an example. Instagram had the app Instagram. They didn't in the past put an age limit to who can be on it and who can use it. And they realized that there were teens on that app who were getting issues or getting requests from people older than them. And they were getting access to things that were not really helpful for them, nudes, content that were even harming them, right? So what did they do? They went back and they built Instagram for teens. Even YouTube now has parental control. So for people building, because there is this, we can see that there's vulnerability for especially children. And I even want to add that there's also another group that's very vulnerable. That is our older folks, our parents. They didn't grow up with technology, so it's really hard for them to understand sometimes. And everything that is deep fake misinformation, sometimes they run with the idea. So what you can do as a founder is that you want to do some research. You want to know this demographic well, and you want to prioritize designing or using the principles of privacy by design. What are some of those? If you don't have to collect certain information or you will not use them, don't collect them. That's data minimization. If you want to collect the data, be clear as to what you're collecting, for how long, and what you're using it for, and let the users understand that. There are many others you can do, like even what Mr. Emmanuel taught today about how you can use open source tools to do some end-to-end encryption for whatever you're building. The idea is that don't build without your users, build with them in mind, and don't think about all of these things as an afterthought, else you have to build back and make sure that you've set some confines. So in essence, that is what I have to say also about that.
Thank you so much, Lily. It was really insightful. Really, we've been talking about, we can't stop talking about safety by design, right? It's not something that you think about when you've gotten funding or when you've launched your MVP. Right. Something that you have to think about from ideation stage, when you're even anticipating what you want to build, when you're thinking about it, conceptualizing it. You have to think about safety by design, privacy by design.
Yes.
And think about how it can be implemented in the tool or the idea you're coming up with. Thank you so much. I don't know if any other person has a question. Is there any question in the chat before Lily jumps off? Okay. Yeah, someone wanted you to drop the link and you have.
Yeah,
thank you so much.
Sure.
Thank you so much. Thank you. We appreciate.
Thank you. I'll have to drop off, but happy to connect with you again online sometime. Thank you all. Have a good one.
Please, everyone follow her on LinkedIn.
Thank you. You too. I'm happy to follow back. Right. Thank you. Have a good one.
Bye. Okay. Thank you, everyone. That was really a very insightful section. I actually really enjoyed it. So we jumped a section, which we'll do just in the next 5 to 10 minutes before we end this meeting, because our time is very much fast spent. I just want two people to come and share what the plan they came up with, how they mapped the risk in their sector, and then share more about what was the plan they came up with in terms of making sure that they mitigate the risk they've mapped out in the sector or in the product they are building. So quickly, if we can have two people, or I would have to call somebody to talk about what they shared in their own breakout room. Okay. There are a lot of people on this call. We have like up to 14 people. Ephraim is up. Who else? I don't know if there is someone in EdTech that is still on the call. I can't remember who are those in the EdTech sector now. That can share too. Okay, we have our people. Okay, please, you can come off mute and share.
Yeah, okay, so our industry of focus was fintech, and basically we're able to find answers to the question. So the first bit was looking at entirely what kind of user data does our product handle and which parts are more sensitive. So essentially, if we are in the fintech, our fintech products would handle personal details like the names, the emails. You also look at financial data like the bank accounts, payment, and transaction history. So I would say that the most sensitive parts would be anything related to money and identity. Because if these are exposed, users could lose their funds or necessarily they'll face something called identity theft or face fraud. So that is our bits around the mapping of our data and also the sensitive bits as well. The other question that deals with encrypt by design. So if we could encrypt one part of our product today to build user trust and meet compliance, what would it be and why? So if we would encrypt one thing now, it would all be transaction data, both when it's in transit and when it's stored or when it's at rest. Because this would entirely protect users, their funds, will also help us to also meet compliance rules like the PCI DSS and also GDPR rules as well. And we also show customers that their financial information are safe with us, and that will also increase our credibility and trust as well. So that will deal with question 2, encrypt by design. The last part that deals with the action step. What will be one quick action that our team will take, let's say in the next 30 days, to strengthen encryption or data protection in our product? So entirely in the next 30 days, we would have to look at a more robust end-to-end encryption for customer messages, for payment details, and also check if any data is unprotected in the system. So as we are doing the implement, so first of all, we can implement or conduct an internal audit check in our system and see probably we have not implemented end-to-end encryption on certain features. So we can do that to be able to ensure that there's a robust end-to-end encryption in all sensitive features of the product. We also check for any data that is unprotected in the system. So would probably we can use encryption. So I mean, based on the interactions we've had, we can use any of the open source encryption. We can use the OpenSSL and all that to help us to implement the end-to-end encryption in our product. To tell you, this is what we came up with as the fintech industry. Yeah. Joy, you're muted.
Thank you, Ephraim. We'll have Bernard share what they came up with at the EdTech section.
Okay, thank you very much. So at the EdTech group session, it actually took us some time to organize ourselves together, and so we didn't really cover much. And most of us, or all of us, were actually still very new to encryption and with relation to the product and then the encryption plan. But then we're able to do a little talk based on our little experience with each had. And then we're able to conclude on a product as an educational system, which a company is going to make use of to educate people like students. And as part of it, we mentioned that to handle personally identifiable information, we're going to embed encrypting tools as developers or with the help of developers using APIs into these systems, so that by entering this sensitive information, users or those who are going to make use of the products or the system have their personally or their sensitive data protected. So in brief summary, this is what we discussed, and this is what we have to present as a group.
Okay, thank you so much. I think for other groups, there were not a lot of people that joined those sections, but it was really good to have people in fintech and edtech thinking about how encryption works in that sector. So what I want to say is that everybody should look out for resources. We keep developing resources to help startups in different sectors understand how encryption can be used or implemented in their sector and products. Because there are similar things that startups build. If you talk about learning management systems, right? For edtech, talk about video conferencing systems for classes they do and things like that. So yeah, so look out for resources in this. We are going to drop our website again for you to check out the Encrypted by Design mini toolkit and other resources that we have on our website. So first of all, we have a survey. If we can have the team drop the survey for everyone to fill. We also send this survey to emails if you're not able to fill it on this call. So please fill that survey. It will help us know how impactful and evaluate how impactful this event was for you. So if we can drop the link to that survey right now, okay. Please take 5 to 6 minutes to fill out the survey for us. It will really help us to understand what improvements we can make in the future when we host Encrypted by Design event again. So I think this is the end of our section. This is the end of Encrypted by Design 2025. We are looking forward to seeing everyone and even the people that couldn't join us in the Encrypted by Design 2026 event during the Global Encryption Day in October 2026. Thank you so much, everyone, for making the time these 2 days to discuss, to learn together. I'll leave us with one action. We have to look at what we are building as founders. If you're not working in your own startup, look at the organization you're working in, the products they are using, and see where encryption is needed. Even as simple as encrypting a report so that people that don't need to have access to that report can be able to not see what is written in that report, right? So see ways you can encrypt sensitive information so that it's not exposed, users' data are not exposed, your reports are not exposed, and also make sure to look at data protection laws in your region to see how these laws apply to what you're building. So thank you so much, everyone, and we'll see you in 2026.